We are going to be starting today by going over Chapter 12, the lecture notes on emotion, stress, and health. I do want to remind you that all of these lecture notes are posted on our class website without my input in them. So you can go through the lecture notes at your leisure, or you can watch this video where I go over the notes with you. And I think this will really add to the reading of Chapter 12. And hopefully you're at home and you're reading, taking the guided reading notes, and of course making the vocab flashcards. So just imagine we're in room 318 and I'm running around and doing my thing, and hopefully we'll be together soon. But in the meantime, here's chapter 12. So I know that many of you already have an idea of what emotions are, but in chapter 12, Myers gives a really interesting uh, description of emotions. You know, they are kind of full body. An emotion that you feel is a physiological response. The entire body, the mind, the spirit is going to feel it. We express emotions in so many different ways through our facial expressions, through our body language, through our words and actions. And many psychologists also believe that the emotion that you're having is a conscious experience, that you recognize the emotion that you have, and that you're fully aware of it. And that's somewhat debatable, as we're going to see in this chapter. But emotions can be healthy and emotions can be unhealthy. And as we see with Ron Burgundy in Anchorman, sometimes emotions trap us, and we want to be in control of ourselves. So here we go, chapter 12. You know, this isn't elementary school anymore, but back in elementary school, the teacher would talk about having primary emotions like joy or happiness or fear or sadness or surprise. But we're in high school now, and you are studying psychology at a collegiate level, and we recognize that not only do we have primary emotions, we also have secondary emotions. And as you look at the emotion wheel in front of you, you can see that, yeah, joy is a primary emotion, but ecstasy and cheerfulness and delight, those are secondary emotions that spring out of this well of joy. If you look at fear, fear is a primary emotion, but you know, being in a state of terror or panic or apprehension or dismay, those are secondary emotions, and the wheel goes on and on. So it's not just primary emotions, as we see in the Inside Out movie from Pixar, but that we actually have hundreds of emotions that we express as humans. Now, getting to Inside Out, such a great film from Pixar and Disney, you know, you have the main characters of joy and sadness and fear and anger and disgust. And those are all primary emotions that we experience really in a 24-hour cycle. But recognize that those are just primary emotions. We also have hundreds of secondary emotions that we experience. And I will be posting a list of some of those secondary emotions that we've all experienced in our lifetime or will experience in the future. If we look at basic emotions, they involve happiness and anger and sadness and fear, disgust and surprise. And we recognize that happiness is our reaction to the positive, disgust is our reaction to the revolting, surprise is our reaction to the unexpected. And we react to aversion through anger many times. When we are just so disgusted with things, we can become very angry. We react to danger through fear. And finally, when things are difficult or we lose something, we can react with a primary emotion known as sadness. You know, the pictures up on the front board, like Robin Williams showcasing his basic human emotions through his universal facial expressions. You can see his happiness and joy just written all over his face. And sometimes you don't even have to see the person's entire face to see what emotions they are feeling. Sometimes the eyes are truly the windows to the soul. Up on the front board, there's a lot of researchers who have made their career out of studying human emotions. Carol Izard is one of those researchers, and she suggested that there are basically 10 human emotions that we all exhibit, and that these 10 basic emotions can be exhibited on the faces of infants. So if you look at some of the pictures of these babies in front of you, you can see the universal facial expressions that they're showcasing for joy and anger and interest and disgust and surprise and sadness and even fear. And as we get older, those universal facial expressions, they don't dissipate or disappear. They stick around. They evolve with us. We also know that as humans, we're really good at reading ourselves and reading others, especially when they're in an emotional state. And what we're going to see here is some research that's been done on detecting emotions in other people. Introverts seem to be really good at detecting emotions, whereas extroverts have emotions that are easier to read. So the introvert might be able to read others better, whereas the extrovert, well, they might be easily able to be read by others. We also know that it's kind of an evolutionary leftover of Survival 101 that we are primed to detect negative emotions in other people, kind of like stranger danger, protect yourself. So if you're walking down the hallway, walking down the neighborhood block, and you look at someone and you're looking at their facial expressions, you're looking at their body language, and you are detecting that they are showcasing some pretty serious negative emotions, you as a human are pretty quick to recognize that and either stop and kind of look at the situation and decide, am I going to go forward towards this person who is flashing negative facial expressions or negative body language towards me? And I guess if you go back to evolutionary psychology, if you were not good at detecting negative emotions in other people, you probably wouldn't survive very long. We also know that within research on children and adults who have lived through abusive childhoods or abuse in their life. Many times, people who have lived through abuse sometimes show a bias, and when they see fearful faces, sometimes they read fear as anger, and they get that wrong. When they're trying to detect human emotions, it's not always the case, but we have seen it in some studies on survivors of abuse, kind of confusing anger and fear. And we're going to do a little test of that now. So, in a moment, you're going to see a string of faces. The same gentleman's going to kind of come across the bottom of the screen. And at a certain point, his facial expressions are actually going to change. They're going to morph from fear into anger. So, keep a lookout and ask yourself, you can even raise your hand or say stop when you detect that this person's face has changed from a fearful face to a face that is showing anger. So here we go. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so you just saw his face or his string of faces go along the bottom of the screen, and I am certain that many of you were able to detect that there is a subtle change, that his facial expression does change from one of fear to one of anger. And again, it was towards the middle. I'm going to play that one more time so you can get a look at it, and we'll see if you're able to pick out when his face turns from one of fear to one of anger. It's very subtle. Okay, that's when I saw it. Now, depending on your attention to detail, depending on your age, depending on your background, you might have detected that morph a little bit earlier or later than me. But just so you notice that there was a change, we are all primed to detect emotions in other people. There's a lot of research still going on with that theory. Up on the front board, we've got emojis in real life are terrifying. Absolutely. And then, of course, the six basic emotions of a Disney princess. We've got joy and love and surprise, fear, sadness, and anger. I will say that Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks have gotten, a lot better at kind of showcasing secondary emotions in some of their characters. And I guess time will tell on the evolution of some of those characters. Now, I posted a really great video. It's on the homework blog and the class website, looking at some studies done on universal facial expressions, both in people who were born sighted and in people who were born blind. Now, both of these ladies here in front of you, they both just lost a gold medal match in the Olympics. One of the athletes was born blind and the other was born sighted. They're both showcasing the exact same universal facial expression for sadness. And it doesn't matter if you were born blind or sighted. This seems to be something that we were born with. This is preset in all of us. It is innate, these universal facial expressions. And if you get a chance to watch that video, it's on the homework blog and the class website. You can actually hear the researcher himself talk about the time he spent at the Sydney Olympic Games in Australia studying universal facial expressions. So this is something that we're all born with. Not only do we show universal facial expressions, we're able to read them in other people. Now, one of my favorite shows, and of course it's my favorite show, so it got canceled after 3 seasons, was the great show called Lie to Me. And in that show, the main character, who we can see in front of us, he kind of is a human lie detector. He can look at someone, listen to them, and tell automatically if they are lying. And in this fictional show, he kind of works for the FBI, the government, the CIA, and they call him in on all these cases where he's able to read the suspect and tell pretty quickly what emotion they are showcasing. Now, while this is a Hollywood show, there's a lot of psychological and scientific evidence that is accurate in the show. And I'm going to be trying to post some episodes of Lie to Me for you to watch over this week and weekend. We can see that the main character is showcasing the universal facial expression for sadness, drooping of the upper eyelids, losing focus in the eyes, slight pulling down of the corner of the lips. We can see contempt, the lip corner tightened and raised only on one side of the face, and the same for anger and disgust, and surprise and fear. Now, you can find that video of the universal facial expressions via Lie to Me on this lecture note series, and it's also posted on the class website. Now, some people, I joke, of course, with Grumpy Cat, but some people are difficult to read, right? Even someone who claims to be a human lie detector might have difficulty reading their facial expressions, their body language. We know through scientific studies that men and women who have been diagnosed as psychopaths or sociopaths, they feel emotions a little bit differently because of their abnormal condition, and they might be more difficult to read because not only do they feel emotions differently, they showcase them differently, and they can fake their emotions. So Grumpy Cat, of course, is showcasing all of his emotions, and they all kind of look the same. Up on the front board, we just have average, regular people showcasing the universal facial expressions for happiness and excitement and being afraid, and of course, anger. Doesn't really matter who you are showcasing these facial expressions on a daily basis. You might have that facial expression on for several minutes, even an hour or two, or you might flash a very much of a micro expression at somebody. So when you're talking to someone and they're saying, yeah, I'm fine, everything's good, I forgive you, you better take a very long look at their face and their body language because they might be lying to you. Just a little bit of a review of primary emotions. We have love, joy, surprise, anger, sadness, and fear. And we see, of course, some universal facial expressions and body language showcasing these emotions. Want to remind you again that those are just the primary emotions. We also have secondary emotions as well. Love is a primary emotion, and the secondary emotions would be affection and longing. Joy is a primary emotion. The secondary emotions would be cheerfulness and zest and pride. Same thing for surprise. Secondary emotions would be astonishment and amazement. Anger is a primary emotion. We've all felt angry, but anger can mask itself as many things. So maybe the person is envious, or they're disgusted, or they're irritated, and that all hides behind a mask of anger. We also have the primary emotion of sadness. Well, sadness is complicated. You can be sad, but showcase other emotions, kind of like wearing not just one mask, but doubling it up. We also have fear as a primary emotion, and some of the secondary emotions might be shock or nervousness or feeling panicked. And again, remember, all roads lead to the brain. All of these emotions are being produced within your limbic system, the amygdala, the hippocampus, the hypothalamus. They are producing the emotions. Your body is feeling it. Your cognitive state is recognizing it. And then you're showcasing that out. Again, a lot of great videos on the class website and the homework blog, kind of going over everything I've spoken about with the baseline of human emotions and universal facial expressions. Really hope you check out those videos. Now, this is interesting. Take a look at these four different people. We've got subject A, B, C, and D. All four of these individuals are showcasing a micro expression of happiness. They are smiling, but smiles can hide a multitude of sins, right? So for letter A, she's smiling to mask anger. Letter B, this guy is smiling to appear to be overly polite. Letter C, this gentleman is smiling to kind of soften his criticism a little bit. And letter D, this woman is smiling. Notice that her eyes are almost shut. She's looking down. She said that she was smiling to showcase kind of compliance. Now, the background story about these four individuals is very interesting. They were all put into this social experiment. They didn't realize they were going to be the guinea pig. They're left alone in kind of an empty office with a desk. There's some chairs. And after about 20 minutes, they're brought in for what they think is going to be an interview. Now, halfway through that interview, they are interrupted and basically accused of stealing money out of the office that they were just sitting in. Now, later, once they're let in on the trick and they realize that they're not really being accused of stealing money, the interviewer, the researcher says, well, why did you smile? If you knew you were innocent, if you knew you didn't steal any of the money, why were you smiling? And these people explain their reaction. So just because someone's smiling at you doesn't mean they're happy with you. Just because we cry doesn't mean we're sad. And just because we showcase an emotion or we think we read an emotion in another person, well, it doesn't really tell the whole story. It's only one part of the story. Emotions, like people, are complex. Now, let's keep moving. Sorry about the noise. That was horrible. Now, we can see another example here, ladies and gents, looking at expressing human emotions. We have 6 participants, A all the way through F, looking at universal facial expressions. I want you to take a look at these 6 individuals, and I want you to ask yourself, can you recognize what universal facial expression or emotion they are showcasing? I'll give you a moment while I take a drink of water. Okay, so let's take a look. Here are the answers. So hopefully you got them correct. If you didn't, that is okay. We've got letter A, she's showcasing happiness. Letter B, she's showcasing surprise. Letter C, he's showcasing fear. He's scared. Universal facial expression for fear. We've got letter D, universal facial expression for sadness, letter E, anger, and letter F, disgust. These are all culturally universal expressions. You can go anywhere in the world. You can go to Thailand, you can go to London, you can go all the way to the west coast of California. Doesn't matter who you're talking to, if they're a child, if they're a teenager, an adult, man, woman, it doesn't matter. These are the universal facial expressions that we all showcase. And the sooner you recognize them in other people, the more you can learn about yourself. Now, a lot of great emotions out there. Probably one of my favorites has to be happiness. And so many great videos out there on happiness, so many great quotes on happiness. This is definitely one of my favorites, and I'll post this on the class website for you to take a look at. I definitely agree with this. Happiness is a journey. It's not a destination. If you want to be happy, you got to work for it. And just like all of the other primary emotions, happiness can be temporary. And if you want to get it back, you have to work for it. Anger can be temporary. If you don't want to revisit it on a regular basis, you've got to work hard to avoid it. But I want to let you know, irregardless of what emotion you're looking at, emotions are healthy. It's good to feel, it's good to understand. And there is so much time spent in psychology trying to understand the person. And sometimes we have to dig a little bit deeper and try to get to this idea of the psychology of human emotions. Now, interestingly enough, a huge bulk of chapter 12 deals with this topic, theories of emotion. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, what came first, right? Do you feel the emotion in your brain? Do you feel the emotion in your body? Do you think about the emotion? What came first? And for those of you that have started to read chapter 12 or you already read it, you know that this is not an easy answer. We have three major theories on emotion. And in my next video, I am going to go through those three theories for you. They include the James Lange theory, the Cannon-Bard theory, and the two-factor theory. Each one of these theories on emotions are really well done. I mean, you could agree with one or all of them. My advice is to kind of go through them with me in the next video and kind of decide for yourself which one makes more sense. That's the interesting thing about psychology. We don't have all the answers, but as you know, we have a lot of different theories. And for chapter 12, these are the three big theories on emotion. So in my next video, which I'll be posting tomorrow, you'll be able to kind of go through the theories of emotion with me. And then we're going to look at stress. And then we'll be doing a little bit of CBT therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, which was created by Albert Ellis right at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. And we'll be looking at how you can appreciate your emotions, control your emotions, and really create a better destiny for yourself. So hopefully you made it this far in the video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.